Well, friends, Donald Trump was just found guilty of 34 felony crimes. Welcome accountability. Let's talk about that because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. Well, friends, Donald Trump was just found guilty of 34 felony crimes by a jury of his peers. 12 of his fellow New Yorkers who sat fairly, impartially, independently, a jury that was selected by Donald Trump's lawyers and the prosecutors. And after sitting in trial for several weeks, 4, 5, pushing 6 weeks, the jury delivered its verdict in less than 2 days of deliberation. Guilty, and they said it 34 times. Guilty with an exclamation point. They held Donald Trump guilty for his crimes in a New York minute. And these were crimes that didn't just involve hush money payments. They were crimes for falsifying business records to gain unfair advantage in a presidential election. Donald Trump cheated in and stole the 2016 presidential election, not only by falsifying business records to hide deeply damaging information from the American voters, in a very real sense, robbing us of the full value of our vote. But remember, hey, Russia, if you're listening, Donald Trump cheats. He cheats to acquire power, and he cheats to retain power. And now he's been held accountable by a jury of his peers. Guilty. So friends, as you can tell, I'm not in my studio. I'm actually on travel for work. So this is going to be purely a stream of consciousness video based on the historic conviction of a criminal former president of the United States who also happens to be the Republican candidate to be president again. But I think the prospects of him being reelected took an enormous hit today. Even before these guilty verdicts, I didn't believe he was going to be elected. Not even close. I don't think he's attracted a new voter to his cause since he launched the attack on the Capitol to try to criminally retain the power of the presidency after he lost the last election. And if he has failed to attract a new voter to his cause, people have been peeling away from him. If you see some of the polls, I'm not a polls person, and goodness knows I'm not a political expert. But some of the polls reported that even Donald Trump's own supporters, something like 20% of them, said if he's convicted of felonies, I'm not voting for him. I think his days are done. Indeed, his days of freedom might be done. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But one of the things I want to take up is how Donald Trump tried to bully and threaten his way out of this conviction, right? We saw him threaten and post. Indeed, he posted violence-inducing threats involving witnesses and jurors, judges and their family members and their staff, prosecutors and their family members and their staff. He thought he could bully and threaten his way out of this prosecution and out of this conviction. But guess what? The people are stronger than Donald Trump. Goodness knows those 12 jurors were a hell of a lot stronger than Donald Trump's threats and his violence. The grand jurors who sat in judgment, who heard the evidence and decided, yes, there is enough to indict these crimes against Donald Trump, they were stronger than Donald Trump. And the judges and the judges' staff and the prosecutors and the witnesses, yes, the Stormy Daniels and the Michael Cohens and all of the others who testified against Donald Trump, they were stronger than Donald Trump. No, he couldn't bully or threaten his way out of this prosecution, out of this conviction, and he's not going to threaten his way out of a sentencing hearing on July 11th. So, buckle up, Buttercup, because the criminal justice system is just getting warmed up with you. You've been convicted in your first case. You're facing 3 more criminal prosecutions. You will be convicted in each and every one. Friends, I know you've heard me say this before if you've watched these Daily Justice Matters videos, and I thank you if you have been. You've heard me say that Donald Trump tries his cases in the court of public opinion, and in the court of public opinion, there are no rules of evidence. There is no rule of law. And frankly, the Constitution doesn't even apply, certainly not in Donald Trump's court of public opinion. And he lied, and he lied, and he lied in the court of public opinion. Unfortunately, there are some who are gullible enough to believe his lies. Those are folks we need to try to help move through and beyond, their belief in Donald Trump's lies. But once these cases move into a court of law proper, and he can no longer try them in the court of public opinion, you've heard me say it over and over again, that he was going to be convicted in a New York minute. It was going to be like shooting fish in a barrel. Why? Because in a court of law, the rules of evidence apply. The rules of procedure apply, and the rule of law applies. So, as but one example, prosecutors can and did introduce every single incriminating statement Donald Trump made. In any setting, at his hate rallies, on his third-rate social media platform, in news conferences, every single incriminating statement Donald Trump made, the prosecutors had the right under the rules of evidence to introduce those statements to the jury. But Donald Trump could not introduce a single statement that he made in those same settings, because the rules of evidence say a prosecutor can introduce a statement of a party opponent, but the person on trial can't introduce his own hearsay statements that he made out of court because they can't be cross-examined. Now, that's not the legal playing field being tipped in favor of the prosecution, but it is the legal playing field being tipped in favor of the jury only getting reliable, credible, accurate evidence and information. And that's why this is simply conviction number 1 that was won in the court of law rather than being tried by Donald Trump in the court of public opinion. Donald Trump will be convicted in each and every criminal case. Yes, it's taking us some time to get them to trial, but we'll get there. We'll get there. But this is an important and historic start. So let's talk about sentencing, because that is the next enormously important, consequential issue that we're going to have to contend with. Sentencing is set for July 11th. That's not unusual. After somebody is found guilty by a jury, a pre-sentence report is prepared, and that takes some time. Think about this. Ordinarily, a judge doesn't know anything about a defendant, right? The only thing the judge knows is what the defendant has been indicted for and what the evidence that was introduced against him at trial showed. But otherwise, judges don't know much about defendants. That's why once they're convicted, what's called a pre-sentence report is drafted and generated and provided to the judge. One of the things they do is they interview the defendant. Now, whereas judges typically don't know much about a defendant's history, his education, his background, his work, his family, we all know a heck of a lot about Donald Trump. But the good news is it doesn't matter, because the normal course of business will be followed in this case. Judge Merchan has made sure of that. And a pre-sentence report of Donald Trump will be generated and provided to the judge so that the judge can decide what is the most appropriate sentence for these crimes. A sentencing memo, a prosecution memo in aid of sentencing will be drafted and submitted to Judge Merchan. A defense memo in aid of sentencing will be drafted and submitted to Judge Merchan, and then everybody will assemble on July 11th, and Donald Trump will be sentenced. He will try to delay it until after the election, and he will fail. You know why he will fail? Because he tried to delay the trial in New York until after the election, and Judge Merchan said, no, I'm going to treat you like any other defendant. You're going to go to trial. So what can we expect on July 11th? Well, we can expect the prosecutors to ask for a period of incarceration. I firmly believe they will ask for a period of incarceration. Now, mind you, Donald Trump was just convicted of 34 felonies. They're called Class E felonies under the laws of New York, a relatively low-level felony, but the crime carries up to 4 years. A Class E felony of falsifying business records in furtherance of committing another crime carries up to 4 years in prison. But it's also probation eligible. What does that mean? It means that Judge Merchan doesn't have to sentence Donald Trump to even a single minute in jail. He could give him probation. And in the future, I'm going to go through all of the different sentencing options Judge Merchan will have. But here is what I think is most important about the sentencing of Donald Trump. We have just been through a real endeavor, haven't we, friends? Ups and downs. Will there be accountability? Won't there be accountability? Who will Donald Trump threaten next? Will his angry supporters rise up and be inspired to threaten or harass or worse, assault the targets of Donald Trump's threats? We've been through a lot, and we now have, for the first time, criminal convictions against Donald Trump for the crimes he committed. If Judge Merchan declines to sentence Donald Trump to incarceration, this whole endeavor will largely be for naught. There will be no punishment. And one of the accepted principles of sentencing is what's called specific deterrent and general deterrent. You want to deter other people from committing crimes that this defendant was just convicted of. That's general deterrence. Specific deterrence is deterring Donald Trump, incarcerating him, punishing him, incapacitating him for at least a period of time so he cannot continue to commit crimes as he has since these crimes were committed. So the only way to deter crime is to punish those who choose to engage in crime. And if Donald Trump gets probation, it will be little better than 50 years ago, Gerald Ford pardoning Richard Nixon for the crimes he committed against the people of the United States. He committed while in office. He was pardoned. He was held harmless. No accountability, no punishment. I think you can draw a straight line from Richard Nixon to Donald Trump because Donald Trump probably sat back, confident in the knowledge that Nixon didn't get punished. I ain't going to get punished. Well, yeah, Don, you are going to get punished. You have been punished and you will be punished. So if Judge Merchan does not sentence Donald Trump to a period of incarceration, this whole endeavor will be for naught and nobody will be deterred from following Donald Trump's criminal blueprint and doing it all over again, committing the same or similar crimes to try to cheat in future American elections. And I don't want to hear anything about home detention because that's no kind of punishment. Sentencing somebody to home detention is basically sentencing them to binge watch Netflix and order DoorDash. No kind of punishment. Heck, for Donald Trump, it would be a vacation. So I believe the prosecutors will ask for a period of incarceration because they understand the importance of punishing crime and deterring others. If we don't deter others, we're encouraging others. You have to deter the future aspiring day one dictators, those who would cheat in future elections like Donald Trump criminally cheated in the 2016 election. So I remain hopeful, maybe even lapsing into optimism, that Donald Trump will be sentenced to a period of incarceration. But we will know on July 11th what Judge Merchan believes is the right sentence for Donald Trump's crimes, his 34 felony crimes, for which today a New York jury convicted him. Because justice matters. It's a good day for accountability in America. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.